Have you ever felt a strange emptiness show up right after you finally got what you wanted? Like the prize arrived but the hunger stayed. And have you ever noticed how silence can feel peaceful for 1 second, then suddenly feel unbearable? As if something inside you is terrified of what it might hear if it stops talking. Welcome back to the channel. Today we are stepping into a word that scares a lot of people before they understand it. The void. In Zen language, in Buddhist language, and in the kind of playful sharp talk Alan Watts was known for. The void is not a depressing nothing. It is not a nihilistic black hole. The void is the space that makes everything possible. The openness that allows life to move. The clarity that appears when you stop clinging to mental furniture, as if it is your identity. The first idea we are holding is this. Many people suffer because they confuse emptiness with meaningless. And then they spend their whole life desperately filling space that was never meant to be filled. The second idea is this. When you stop fighting the void and you actually learn to rest in it, you do not become passive. You become free. And from that freedom, compassion becomes natural. Wisdom becomes practical. And even anxiety starts losing the power it has over your body. Now let me tell this as a story you can feel. Imagine a person named Ethan. Ethan is not dramatic. That is the point. He is the kind of person who is outwardly fine. He goes to school or work. He jokes with friends. He posts normal things. He seems like he is doing life. But there is a quiet problem he cannot name. When Ethan is busy, he is okay. When Ethan is distracted, he is okay. When Ethan is with people, he is okay. But when Ethan is alone and there is no noise, something rises. At first it is a mild discomfort, a restlessness, a pressure to do something. Check something, watch something, eat something, talk to someone, anything. But if he does not obey that pressure, if he stays still for even a few minutes, the discomfort turns into a deeper fear. It feels like he is standing at the edge of a cliff inside his own mind. He does not call it fear of the void. He just says he hates being bored. He says he cannot relax. He says he needs stimulation. But the truth is closer and more tender. Ethan is afraid of the space where he cannot perform. Because in that space, he might have to meet himself. Ethan grew up in a world where identity is constantly displayed. Profiles, comments, achievements, comparisons. Even if you do not want to compete, the scoreboard is always visible. Ethan learned to measure himself by external signals. How many people respond? How many people approve? How many people like? How many people notice? He also learned that if he is not noticed, he feels like he is disappearing. So he stays busy. One weekend, Ethan goes to visit his uncle, a quiet man who lives in a small place with very little clutter. The uncle is the kind of person who can sit and do nothing without looking like he is suffering. This confuses Ethan. Ethan feels that doing nothing is suspicious, like you must be missing something, like you must be wasting your life. But the uncle seems calm, even amused, as if he knows a joke Ethan has not heard yet. After dinner, the uncle puts on a short recording. It is Alan Watts speaking about Zen and the void. Ethan expects something heavy or weird, but Alan speaks with a tone that feels like a friendly challenge. He makes the idea sound simple, almost too simple, and that simplicity makes Ethan nervous. Because the mind hates simple truths when it is addicted to complicated escape. Alan says something that lands in Ethan like a pebble dropped into water. He points out that people are afraid of the void because they think the void is death. But the void is actually freedom from the false self you are constantly defending. He suggests that the self most people cling to is like a mask made out of thoughts, labels, and social performance. You keep adjusting the mask, polishing it, fixing it, protecting it, but you never feel safe, because deep down you know it is not solid. Ethan feels his chest tighten because he recognizes this without wanting to. The recording continues. Alan speaks about how we treat emptiness as a problem. But emptiness is the nature of things. Every form is a temporary arrangement. Every feeling is a wave. Every thought is a passing cloud. When you cling to any of it as permanent, you suffer. When you relax and see that life is movement, you stop demanding that the river hold still. Ethan is irritated, not because it is wrong, but because it is close. After the recording ends, Ethan says, "So what? We are supposed to just accept nothing matters." His uncle smiles gently, as if he has heard this 1,000 times. He says, "That is the mistake. You are confusing emptiness with meaningless. Zen emptiness is not that nothing matters. It is that nothing can be possessed the way you want to possess it. The moment you stop trying to possess life, you finally get to live it." Ethan does not fully understand. He just feels something shift, like a door cracked open in a room he thought was sealed. That night, Ethan lies in bed in his uncle's quiet home. There is no familiar noise, no constant background sound. The air feels still. Ethan reaches for his phone, then remembers he promised his uncle he would try one night without it. He feels the urge to break the promise. The urge is strong. He realizes how dependent he is. He does not like this realization. It feels like being caught. He puts the phone down and stares at the ceiling. The mind starts talking. It brings up random memories. It brings up future worry. It brings up embarrassing moments. It brings up fears about not being enough. Ethan feels a rising panic. He wants to escape. Then he remembers something he heard in the talk. Not as a quote, but as a direction. Do not fight the mind. Watch the mind. So he tries. He watches. He notices that the thoughts are not one solid thing. They are many small events. A sentence appears, then fades. An image appears, then fades. A feeling rises, then shifts. He notices that the fear itself has waves. This is his first direct encounter with what's end points toward. The void is not a black hole. The void is the space between thoughts, the awareness that remains when a thought ends, the quiet openness that is already here, but usually covered by noise. Ethan notices a tiny gap. For half a second, there is no thought, just presence. Then the mind rushes back and says, "There it is. You are doing it. Keep it. Hold it. Do it again." And the gap disappears. Ethan laughs quietly in the dark, because he can see how silly the mind is. It turns even stillness into a trophy. But that laugh is important. It is the first time Ethan has smiled at his own mind rather than being bullied by it. That smile is compassion. Compassion is not only about other people. It is about your relationship with your own inner chaos. The next day, Ethan tells his uncle he had a hard night. The uncle nods. He says, "Of course, when you stop feeding distraction, the mind screams like a hungry animal. It does not mean something is wrong. It means you are finally hearing what you have been avoiding." Ethan asks, "But why is it so uncomfortable?" The uncle says, "Because you built your identity out of noise. Silence feels like losing yourself. But you are not losing yourself. You are losing the performance you thought was you." This makes Ethan defensive. He says, "I am not performing. I am just living." The uncle does not argue. He says, "Try a small experiment. Sit for 5 minutes today with no phone, no music, no plan. Just sit and notice what the mind does. If you are not performing, it will be easy. If you are addicted, it will be obvious." Ethan agrees, partly to prove his uncle wrong. He sits in a chair by a window. 5 minutes. How hard can 5 minutes be? He sets a timer. He sits. Within 30 seconds, he feels the itch. The body wants movement. The mind wants entertainment. A thought says, "This is stupid." Another thought says, "You are wasting time." Another thought says, "You should be improving yourself right now." Another thought says, "Everyone else is doing something productive." Another thought says, "What if you are falling behind?" Ethan realizes something startling. The mind is not just restless. The mind is insecure. The mind is terrified of being nobody. This is where the void becomes the teacher. Because the void is the place where the mind cannot use achievements or attention to prove existence. In the void, you cannot say, "Look at what I did." In the void, you cannot say, "Look at what they think of me." You cannot hide behind a story. You are simply here. Ethan feels fear rise again, but he stays. He watches. He notices the sensation. Tight chest, warm face, buzzing hands. He notices that the sensations change. He notices that the fear rises and falls. He notices that the mind makes threats, then forgets them and makes new threats. And then, unexpectedly, another gap appears. This time it lasts longer. A few seconds. There is just awareness, just seeing, just hearing, just the feeling of breath. The void is not empty in a dead way. It is empty in a spacious way. Like the sky is empty of furniture, but full of possibility. When the timer ends, Ethan opens his eyes and feels something new. Not happiness like a party. Not excitement like a win. A quiet steadiness. The kind of steadiness that makes you feel more real. Ethan starts repeating the practice each day. Sometimes it is peaceful. Sometimes it is painful. Sometimes it is boring. Sometimes it is surprisingly emotional. He discovers that the void is also where feelings you have avoided show up. Grief you did not process. Anger you hid. Shame you carried. Loneliness you covered with noise. At first he thinks this is a problem. Then he realizes this is healing. You cannot heal what you refuse to feel. The void is where the mind stops running, so the heart can finally speak. One afternoon, Ethan is sitting and a memory surfaces. A memory of a time he was laughed at. A time he felt humiliated. He feels heat in his face. He feels the old shame. He wants to get up. He wants to distract. But he stays. He watches the shame as a sensation. He watches the story attached to it. The story that says, "You are not enough. You will always be a joke. You must prove yourself." He watches the story like a movie. He realizes something. The shame is not him. It is an experience moving through him. This recognition is powerful. It is also very Buddhist. The mind wants to say, "I am ashamed. Therefore I am shameful." But the deeper insight says, shame is present. Therefore a wave is passing. It will change. Ethan begins to see how his whole life has been shaped by the fear of that shame. He chased approval. He chased attention. He chased achievements. He chased style. He chased being impressive. All to avoid sitting with the simple feeling that he is human and sometimes vulnerable. The void is teaching him that vulnerability is not death. It is truth. Now, let us connect this to Zen and the word void more clearly, but still keep it grounded. In Zen, emptiness often points to the fact that things do not exist as separate, fixed, independent objects the way the mind imagines. Everything is interdependent. Everything changes. Everything is a process. When you cling to fixed ideas, you suffer. When you see the fluid nature of reality, you become flexible and free. The mind hears emptiness and thinks, so nothing is real. But Zen is not saying nothing is real. It is saying your rigid mental version of reality is not real in the way you think. The labels are not the living thing. The word is not the experience. The map is not the territory. This is why Alan Watts often made fun of our seriousness. We cling to concepts like life rafts, then drown while hugging the raft. Zen says, let go. The water is not your enemy. You are water too. Ethan starts noticing this in daily life. When he argues with someone, he clings to being right. That clinging creates tension. That tension creates harsh words. Those words create distance. That distance creates loneliness. That is karma in a practical sense. Cause and effect, not mystical punishment. So he tries something new. When he feels the urge to win, he pauses. He asks himself, what am I protecting? Often, It is a fragile identity. The identity of being smart. The identity of being respected. The identity of being superior. He notices that these identities are empty. Not in a worthless way. In a flexible way. They are custom. When he sees that, he can relax. He can listen. He can apologize. He can let the other person be human. He can be human too. This is where compassion begins to grow. Because when you stopped reading the self as a fixed thing that must be defended, you stop treating others as threats. You become softer, less reactive. You become more capable of kindness. Ethan also starts noticing that anxiety is tied to clinging. Anxiety is the mind trying to control uncertainty. It imagines the future, rehearses disasters, tries to build a guarantee. But guarantees do not exist in a changing world. The void teaches the nervous system a new lesson. You can be here without a guarantee and still be okay. Not because nothing bad can happen, but because your mind can learn to meet what happens without collapsing into panic. Ethan practices this. When anxious thoughts rise, he does not argue with them. He does not try to force them away. He watches. He notices the sensation. He notices the thoughts. He returns to the breath. He rests in awareness. He lets the wave pass. Over time, the waves still come, but they do not knock him down as often. Now, there is a deeper layer to the void that Alan Watts loved to point toward. The void is also the place where the separate self begins to dissolve, not as a scary disappearance, but as a relief. The separate self is exhausting. It is always comparing, always defending, always performing, always worrying about image. When that self relaxes, what remains is simple presence. Ethan experiences this one day in a small moment. He is walking outside, and the light is hitting the street in a soft way. He hears birds. He feels the air. For a brief moment, he forgets himself, not in a dissociative way, in a natural way. He is just walking, just seeing, just hearing. And in that moment, there is peace. Then the mind returns and says, "That was nice. How do I get that again?" And the peace fades. Ethan laughs again, because the mind cannot help turning even peace into a project. But that moment changes him. He realizes peace is not something you create by force. Peace is what appears when you stop interfering. This is why Zen practice is often described as non-grasping. You do not chase enlightenment like a prize. Use it. You breathe. You observe. You let thoughts pass. You return. And over time, the mind becomes less sticky. The heart becomes more open. Ethan asks his uncle, "So what is the void really?" His uncle says, "It is the space that allows everything. It is the openness of awareness. It is the fact that your thoughts are not solid. It is the fact that your identity is not a prison. It is the fact that life is not owned." Ethan says, "That still sounds abstract." His uncle nods. He says, "Then keep practicing." Zen is not meant to be understood like a math problem. It is meant to be lived. So Ethan lives it. He starts bringing the practice into small moments. He eats one meal without screens. He notices taste. He notices chewing. He notices the mind wanting more stimulation. He lets the wanting be there without obeying it. He discovers that the food tastes better when he is actually there. He listens to a friend without planning his reply. He notices the urge to impress. He lets it go. He discovers that connection feels deeper when he is not performing. He does homework or work tasks with one focus at a time. He notices the urge to multitask. He returns. He discovers that his mind is clearer when it is not split into 10 directions. These are small practices, but they are spiritual. Because spiritual practice is not only about sitting still. It is about learning how to live without clinging. Ethan also begins to see how much suffering comes from resisting reality. When something changes, the mind says it should not. When someone disappoints you, the mind says they must not. When you feel a difficult emotion, the mind says it should go away. This resistance is suffering. The void teaches a different response. Allow the moment to be as it is. Then respond wisely. Not passive acceptance, but clear acceptance. Acceptance is seeing reality without denial. Then action can be intelligent. This is also where wisdom and compassion meet. Wisdom sees impermanence and emptiness, so it stops clinging. Compassion sees suffering, so it responds with kindness. Without wisdom, compassion can become burnout. Without compassion, wisdom can become cold. Together, they become awakening. Ethan starts noticing his behavior online. He used to get pulled into outraging arguments. He used to feel a rush when he could dunk on someone. Then he would feel empty afterward. The void again. He realizes that the rush was not real satisfaction. It was a temporary identity boost. He was feeding the separate self, and the separate self is never satisfied. So he practices letting go. He reads something that triggers him, and he pauses. He feels the sensation. He watches the urge to attack. He asks, will this reduce suffering or increase it? He notices that most online fighting increases suffering, including his own. So he closes the app. He breathes. He chooses something kinder. This is karma again. Small choices shape mind. Mind shapes life. Life shapes destiny. Now you might be listening and thinking, this is nice, but the void still scares me. When I am alone, I feel anxious. When I am not distracted, I feel sad. When I am quiet, I feel weird. That is normal. The void scares the mind because the mind uses noise to avoid pain. When you remove noise, pain can surface. But surface does not mean destroy. Surface means it can be seen, understood, and released. Think of it like cleaning a room. If you stop stuffing everything into closets, the mess is visible. That visibility can feel uncomfortable, but it is also the start of actual order. Ethan learns to stay with discomfort in small doses. Not forcing, not torturing, just practicing. And each time he stays, he becomes more confident. Not arrogant confidence. Quiet confidence that says, I can meet my own mind. This confidence reduces anxiety, because anxiety often comes from fearing your own inner experience. If you believe a feeling will destroy you, you panic when it arises. But if you learn that feelings rise and fall, you can ride the wave. Ethan also learns that the void is not only about sitting alone. The void is present in every transition. The pause between words in a conversation, the silence before you reply, the gap between breaths, the moment after a plan changes, the moment before you react. If you can rest in that gap, you gain freedom. The gap is where choice lies. The gap is where you can choose compassion instead of impulse. The gap is where you can choose wisdom instead of habit. Ethan begins to use the gap in conflict. When someone says something that hurts, he feels the impulse to snap back. He pauses. He breathes. He feels the heat in the chest. He lets it be there. He responds more calmly. Sometimes he still sets a boundary, but he does it without cruelty. This changes his relationships. People feel safer around him. He becomes less dramatic, more steady, and ironically, more respected. Because people can feel when someone is not desperate for control. Now let me bring the story to a moment that makes the void feel even more real. Ethan receives bad news one day. A family member is sick. Suddenly life is not just a mental conversation. It is real. The mind wants to panic. The mind wants to demand certainty. The mind wants to ruin time. Ethan feels grief. He feels fear. He feels helplessness. All of it is human. But he also has practice now. He sits at night and lets the feelings be present. He does not run. He does not numb immediately. He breathes. He watches. He rests in awareness. He realizes that even grief has waves. Even fear changes. Even helplessness shifts. This does not remove pain. It removes the extra suffering created by resistance. It gives him the strength to be present for his family member, to speak kindly, to listen, to help, to show up. This is why the void is not a philosophical trick. The void is practical. It gives you a place to stand when life shakes everything else. In Buddhist terms, when you stop clinging, the mind becomes less entangled. When the mind is less entangled, compassion can flow more freely. When compassion flows, your life becomes more meaningful. Even in difficulty, Ethan notices that meaning changes too. He used to think meaning comes from excitement, being special. Now he sees meaning comes from presence, kindness, honesty, and the courage to face reality without running. That is a mature meaning. A meaning that does not collapse when conditions change. At some point, Ethan asks his uncle, "So is the void the same as enlightenment?" His uncle smiles. He says, "Do not turn it into another goal. The moment you chase it, you miss it. Just practice. Just be here. The void is not something you get. It is what remains when you stop grasping." Ethan nods, and for the first time, he understands the joke. The mind is always trying to possess life. Zen is teaching you that life cannot be possessed, only lived. Now I want to bring this directly to you, because I know many of you live with the same restlessness. Even if you call it different names. You might call it boredom, but it is fear of silence. You might call it stress, but it is fear of losing control. You might call it overthinking, but it is fear of uncertainty. You might call it loneliness, but it is fear of being with yourself. The practice is not to shame yourself. The practice is to train. Start small. Sit for a minute, then 2, then 5. No phone, no music, just breath and awareness. Watch the mind complain. Watch it threaten. Watch it bargain. Watch it get bored. Watch it calm. Watch it change. And while you do this, keep a gentle attitude. The mind is not an enemy. It is a habit machine. Habits can be retrained. This is why practice works. The void is not here to punish you. The void is here to free you from a false identity that needs constant proof. When you begin to trust the void, you begin to trust life. Not because life is always pleasant, but because you are no longer terrified of open space. You learn that open space is where healing happens. Open space is where wisdom grows. Open space is where compassion becomes real. Open space is where you stop living as a performance and start living as presence. Now let me close with a reflection that often hits the heart. Many people are afraid that if they stop performing, they will be nobody. But the truth is, the performance is what makes you feel like nobody, because it is never satisfied. When you drop the performance, you do not become nobody. You become somebody real. Not a brand, not a mask, not an image. A living human being, breathing, changing, capable of love. That is what Zen points to. That is what the void reveals. I want to invite you to share your experience. When you are alone in silence, what shows up first? Restlessness, fear, sadness, anger, a rush to distract, something else. And have you ever had a moment, even a small one, where the silence felt like relief instead of threat? Leave your story in the comments in your own words. Someone else reading might recognize themselves in what you share. If you want more long-form teachings like this, subscribe to the channel, like the video, and stay with us. And if you want to support deeper content, consider joining as a member so we can keep making stories that help the mind calm down and the heart open up. Thank you for being here. Until next time, do not run from the void. Sit with it gently. Let it teach you. And watch how the space you feared becomes the space that sets you free.